Hello, everybody. Go and grab yourself a cup of tea if you are joining us. Because today we have a bonus training. I'm excited to bring you a training Thursday on a different day. If you're joining us on the replay, I'm really looking forward to sharing with you guys the three areas that I have been asked the most about this week, and how to do all these areas well, how to do them legally, how to do them safely, effectively, and efficiently, so that your health, your wealth, and that of your clients and the people that you love is taken care of. Hi, Alison. Hi, Katie. Hey, anybody else who's joining us, please let us know, because I'd like to say hello to you on this. It's a bit blustery here. I wonder what it's like where you are. Cups of tea, people. How good is a cup of tea to calm this craziness that we've been having? And as you're just joining us now, I want us to take 3 deep breaths together. Yep, it's one of those beginnings, just so that we've got everybody online while we start. And everybody could do with 3 deep breaths at the moment, I think. Are we ready? And a second one. All the way to your little alveoli. And a final one. Ready? Alrighty. Hello, everybody. If you're just joining us, grab your cup of tea. I'll be having my cup of tea as well because it's a bonus training today. Hey, Trina. Hey, Nicole. Hey, Selena. Hey, Rowena. Hey, Joe. Windy but nice where you are, Alison. Hey, Jana. Nice to see you. Okay, so today is a bonus training in light of some of the things that have been happening around the world. I have 3 main areas I want to talk to you about today, and they're the 3 biggest areas I've been asked about all week. I've been on the phone to organisations that are creating events for 600 people that have either had to be postponed, cancelled, or been transformed and put online. I've been talking to other practitioners who have been creating either workshops or open days, health days that have up to 100 people. And again, what role do we get to play in either cancelling, postponing, what's best practice to put things online? Then I've been talking to heaps, and I've been getting loads of messages, and there's been lots of questions in the hub around what does it look like to put my practice online? I've been meaning to for such and such a long time, but I really think it's time to do that now. What does that look like? So there's that. And I also wanted to cover how to create an automated or passive income product so that if you were to get sick, you would still be able to have money to be able to look after yourself and the things and people that you want to look after. Hey, Amy. Hey, Chrissy. Hey, Eileen. Nice to see you guys. All right. So they're the 3 places. Events, what to do about them. Online consultations, how to do them safely, efficiently, and effectively. And how to make an automated product so that you can look after yourself financially if you get sick. So the reason I'm doing this is because we all want to be proactive instead of reactive. Now, I've been, my first Telesummit, which is an online conference, I did back in 2014, and I interviewed 10 of my most, nat-struck practitioners, and I put that online as an online conference. I have also been running online consultations, my follow-up consultations initially, and then I've started to do my initial consultations online as well, because my clients would come from far and wide, and they would also travel overseas. So I've been doing that since 2014. Many of the current practices and policies and documents from our associations are actually post that date. So they're from 2015 and 2016. There isn't a lot of up-to-date policies around how to do online, but the online world has changed incredibly since when I was first doing them back then. So I want to share everything that I have for you around that and everything that I've been learning in the process of helping all of these other organizations in their big conferences and events, even to the point of pivoting workshops online, and what I know that helps, and so that you're not financially in a hole when it comes to having to, reorganize a retreat, reorganize a conference, reorganize your workshops, or just like we've heard this morning, there's these restrictions on the amount of people in public spaces. So, proactive rather than reactive. All right, so I'm going to first start talking about events. Now, I've had to personally go through this past week where I've had to pivot on my retreat. Now, my retreat was my retreat that is in 6 weeks' time was actually going to be overseas, and I've pivoted, and we've actually made that a domestic one. We're also communicating in a way so that we're making sure that the latest updates are available to all of the people who are coming on that retreat, and how we're meeting those current latest status updates. So the best practice when it comes to your events, then we're talking about things like updating your attendees over email, over socials, and over push notifications. If you're running the bigger events, now if NADEX had to change, what we would be doing is using our conference app, because next year we've got a conference app for NADEX. Now, conference apps have push notifications, and they're one of the easiest ways to help with your sponsors and your exhibitors, because they have advertising built into them, and it also for your speakers, because all of their presentations and all of their contacts and other things are available just through the app. So it makes this interaction really cool. Conference apps can be as cheap as about $400, and given that most big conferences can really look after that kind of level of money based on ticketing, but they can go up to over $10,000. So there is an opportunity to have an interaction and move a conference online if you need to. Now, Hewlett Packard just did this because they had a conference in Houston about a week ago, and it was going to be a 2-day conference for 750 people. What they did was convert it into a 2-week telesummit. Now, a telesummit, the difference about telesummits is that you have to be able to provide the speakers that time and space. So they did provide it over a 2-week period rather than the 2 days, because that's a jam-packed action process. So making sure that you are conveying that message in accordance with the latest updates from health officials and the government is of paramount. So the best practice is to make sure that you're in conjunction, in communication with your attendees. Now, for me, that means for my retreat that we've been on Zoom calls together. I've made sure that every single person is notified. We're continuing to put this out on social media. We're continuing to stay in contact via email, particularly as significant events start to unroll. Things like it got classified as a pandemic. There's limitations on the amount of people that we have in an area now, and continues on. And each of those points in time, those updates, if done well, should trigger some type of communication and how you're meeting those criteria. So best practice is to make sure you're in communication with the latest updates. Second part of best practice when it comes to events is making sure that people are aware of your mission. And our mission as practitioners is to keep the health of ourselves, our staff, and our clients, and the community at large and the planet as safe as possible. So whatever your mission statement is for your practice, you want to reiterate how you are meeting that by either cancelling, postponing, or putting your event online, or pivoting, whatever that looks like. You also want to make sure that you've got updates from the official health and government websites, so that you're making sure that many people, even this week, some of my best business colleagues are like, "What's going on? somebody just told me I should probably change my conference that's at the airport. What should I do? Many people aren't actually watching the news or being updated in this information. So making sure that they have other places to go and find the information and the facts, not the stories, the facts that go with that is really, really important. Reiterating how you are prepared and what that preparedness plan looks like. Now, a preparedness plan is a sort of way of understanding your terms and conditions when it comes to an event like this or a change in your event like this. And so many organizations, larger organizations, and we can learn from these things, have a page on their website specifically around this is what we plan to do. This is how we're meeting the current criteria. This is what's going to happen moving forwards. And at this stage, this is what's currently happening. And it's just a one-pager on your website. Large music festivals are doing this at the moment. One of the events I was going to this week in a fortnight's time with Simon Sinek at it, they had a preparedness plan and then pivoted on it and let us know. And it's been a fantastic example of communication, clear communication being kindness. Lastly, you want to redirect your audience to make sure that they are getting the information that they need on official sites. So, best practice for pivoting in your events, make sure that you have given them the latest update, whatever that happens to be at that time. Make sure you're re-emphasizing your mission and your vision. Update from the health officials and how you are meeting that criteria. Reiterate your preparedness plan and point them in the direction of where that happens to be. And then direct your audience to make sure that they have the official sites. Now, that's how you're outwardly doing things. How you're inwardly doing things, Chrissy's got a great question around that. How are you inwardly doing things when you're pivoting on, say, a retreat or an event on the back end of it? Did you lose your deposit on your retreat in Bali? Now, this is the thing. Given the current events and how they are unfolding, the timeliness of you making sure that you give enough time for an event space to understand what they are then going to have to do in 2 months' time after this big wave has gone through, so that you can change the date, so that you can push your dates out and they have an opportunity to give you a chance to still hold on to that. So they have an opportunity to see which parts of the terms and conditions they can, as a business without folding, look after you or not be able to look after you. So when it comes to making sure that you aren't losing deposits on your retreats, you have to get into communication, ideally through a phone call, because everything can be lost in email. Now, terms and conditions are legally binding, and even in these situations, they can be really difficult to be able to navigate when it comes to refunds, when it comes to cancellations, when it comes to pushing out dates or postponing. And you have to really focus in on talking to whoever your event space is to be able to come to a mutual agreement. Now, if you don't come to a mutual agreement, there are other ways and means to be able to look after that, like the Ombudsman or the ACCC. But if the terms and conditions are there, then you have to be able to have a negotiation through conversation to be able to get the best outcome for everybody. And again, if you were going to go into those conversations and you're somebody who was affected by this, then you want to go in a similar fashion to the best practice of changing of your events. Changing over your events. This is the latest status. This is my mission and my vision. This is the relationship I have with you and the event space, and this is why we've chosen you as this event space. This is the update from the officials. This was my preparedness plan. This is how it hasn't been met, how I haven't been able to fulfill on it. Can we come to a new agreement? So there are those types of formats of being able to have that communication, and then you want to have the same communication following on with your potential attendees and clients. So hopefully that's helpful. Hey Wendy, hey Carly, hey Cassandra, hey Trudy, nice. Chrissy says my resort will only refund if Australia say not to travel to Bali. Yes, that's right. And that's one of the reasons why for a lot of event spaces. It's one of the reasons why the government is very specific in the way that they're describing things, because they don't want the economic fallout for lots of places that they're just recommending, or they strongly recommend, or they do not strongly recommend. There's some really interesting wording that aren't saying that there's a ban in place. So this is a thing about having a conversation and being proactive rather than reactive. So if you're continuing the conversation with the place that you are having your retreat, then you want to be talking about the evolving situation and how different places and spaces are being worded, and what you think that could happen in the future, and what could, build on that relationship, and what could be beneficial for them or not so beneficial for them in the future as well. Excellent. Hey Moira, happy birthday. All right. So when it comes to your events, the other thing is you want to be making sure that you're in communication around emails and socials. And if you are running an event of the smaller amounts of people that have been described, you need to take that into account from a health perspective. But if you do continue to run those things, here's my biggest suggestions. If you are either going to a market, if you have a workshop with a smaller amount of people, if you are still continuing to be part of an event or run an event with a smaller amount of people, best practice for creating a sanitary environment, you want to be making sure that there are signs and they are very specific. If you can even get a pull-up banner made, that would be even better. Making sure that you have the distance between your attendees, making sure that you have a hand sanitizing station or some type of hand washing station as people are coming in the door. Making sure that people's coats and other soft materials, kids' toys and stuff that are covered in snot and things like that are left at the door. Making sure that you are providing masks where somebody may be actively in the middle of cold-like symptoms, and making sure they cover themselves with a mask, or asking them, and this is out on a policy, on a sign that's available to everybody to be able to see that if these are active, then a mask or leaving is the best policy. Creating a designated sanitation station, so how do we look after and minimize that transmission? And then reminding clients and attendees with the signage, pre-preparing them with emails that this is going to occur, chucking that signage up on socials, making sure that it's shared with everybody in attendance. And you can do this on a smaller scale in your clinic as well. Ensuring that the information is out there and that you have a procedure in place based on the current advice. And again, we go back to this practice of making sure that you have the most recent updates, making sure that they're aligned, they understand how it's aligned with your mission and how you are meeting your preparedness plan for the things in your clinic as well. All right. So first we've got your event or your clinic and how it's meeting the criteria of what's happening. Then we've got, if you are going ahead with in-person things, a best practice on how to create a sanitation station, how to make sure that you've got signs, and how you're conveying that communication over a long period of time. And then if you are going online, what's the best practice to actually take your event online? And I've had so many conversations, and this is where I love getting creative. I actually really love this. All right. Tea. I've got Tasmanian tea today. All right. Going online. Going online looks like having the conversation and then being able to convey to your speakers, to your audience, and to whoever might be sponsoring or exhibiting that you have a new platform. Some of my favorite platforms are Zoom. Zoom is excellent. You can up your, it can be for free, up to 40 minutes. It can be about $15 a month for basic unlimited time. And then you can have add-ons of things like webinars, telesummits, all of these things. Now, The cool thing about that is you can pay a certain amount a month and then pull it down the next month. So yes, it might be a small outlay to begin with, but you can pull that back. So Zoom is a really great opportunity to sign up. And I honestly think every practitioner should have a Zoom account. It's got the highest, it meets the privacy criteria for Australia and the security criteria for shared health advice. And sensitive information, which is to do with people sharing their health information with you. So it's got that level of security, and to be able to have that as a backup at any point in time, it has a great connection usually, especially if you've got a good Wi-Fi connection, and it has an ability to be able to see and hear in a really good way. So I do think Zoom is a great one for online consultations as well, but it's also great to have meetings. It's also great to have webinars. It has gateways to be able to allow different people to access that webinar, people who have paid, for instance, and how to get in communication and contact with those people. Whereas other means that you might want to try and sneak around by trying to do different things, it doesn't quite work as smoothly and as easily. So if it comes to transferring your event online, Zoom is one of the really cool and easy ways of doing that. Then if you are actually running an event still and some of your attendees aren't showing up, then one of the cool ways of being able to look after that is Crowdcast. So crowdcast.io is a great platform to be able to continue to run a Tally Summit online. It also hooks into videos. So if you're in that realm of going pro and you've got a videographer, then it hooks into that and you're still able to run your event. And you automatically can record it as well. So this is the thing about taking your event online. It's pre-recorded, especially if you're on Zoom and Crowdcast, and then you can send out the recordings, and it's a bonus, and you don't actually have to give back say money that's already been handed in, because the bonus is, yes, they can't all join together in person, and the networking essentially doesn't happen, but you can have breakout sessions in the Zoom where you can break out people into groups. But to have it recorded and pass those recordings on means that every one of your attendees then gets to continually watch any of the trainings that were already up on stage that they would have only seen once otherwise. So when it comes to running your events online, you want to make sure that you've got the right platform. So Zoom, Crowdcast. And the other thing is, you can, instead of actually doing it live, you could turn it into a webinar. And the webinar ones that I use is Webinar Jam or Webinar Ninja. Webinar Jam is more expensive. It's got so many ways of doing that well. Webinar Ninja is super easy to use, and there is a webinar functionality on Zoom as well. So they're the platforms that I would consider using. And then you want to make your event still interactive. So some of these bigger organizations that I've been helping this week, I did talk to them about conference apps. Conbop is one of them. We have another one that we're looking at, and I can't remember the name of it. It's super cool as well, though. So that allows people to actually interact, polls, questions, answers, things like that, interact with the exhibitors and the sponsors, be able to ask questions of the speakers, and still download files and things based on this particular thing in their hand whilst watching and interacting online as well. So going virtual, same thing. You want to demonstrate that you've been monitoring what's been happening, and you want to reiterate your mission and the reason why you put your conference, event, whatever it happens to be, online as well. And you want to make sure that you have conversations with your sponsors or your exhibitors on pivoting and what that looks like and what the benefits are. And you want to make sure that you can check your legals for the spaces, just like Chrissy was talking about, checking your T's and C's for the spaces and make sure that you are able to possibly push out into the future. Many of the conferences that I've seen that have these hundreds, if not thousands of people, have been pushing and postponing theirs, although a couple of them have cancelled them completely. And then you want to make sure that you are going pro with it. So how do you not just turn it into somebody sitting in front of the computer and sharing whatever they have to share? How do you pivot and get creative about apps or interactions and things that might be actually really cool to do and possibly even better than the conference experience? Cool. It says so many things. I went to Taekwondo today, no hand sanitizer anywhere. Found that so weird. I've been in clinic and uni and the guidelines are everywhere. Sanitation stations everywhere I turn. Yes. And I really think small organizations like a Taekwondo space or a small to medium enterprise can be really behind because we're not actually being told per se, or we're not actively finding that information. And but when we do find that information, or when we're notified by, I'm learning so much through large organizations sharing what they are doing, and then I'm applying it to what I'm creating. So it's a really important thing for us to see where, like clinic and uni and these larger organizations, how they are leading the way to make sure that this doesn't blow out of proportion, and how to innovate so that business can continue, because that secondary effect is the economics of it. Even if we wouldn't believe in the health effects of it and where it's going to go, the secondary effect is economically. So make sure that these changes are in place and communicating the entire way when it comes to your events, and when it comes to online consultations, and then when it comes to automating or creating something of use, is just going to be so much more beneficial. So yeah, I totally get that, Moira. Hey Paula, hey Michelle, nice to see you guys. All right, so I've just covered events, and when you are considering whether you cancel your event, do consider your T's and C's. Make sure that you're communicating to every stakeholder, your attendees, your staff, your speakers, and your sponsors. If you are considering postponing it, again, stay in those communications around what's currently happening, what the newest thing is, how your mission and vision are meeting those requirements, how your preparedness plan is meeting those requirements, and how you can redirect everybody to the right sources, because not everybody is looking at the right sources and they might need you to guide them there. All right. Lastly, if you want to put your event online, there is so many tools, and it's so exciting to pivot online. So many more people can access you that might not have been able to travel. So many more people can access you because you can record your online version of it. So many more people can access you because they have the means in their hand to watch every piece of that either conference, event, workshop, or whatever you were planning on doing. So like I was saying, there's some great platforms, great tools. Get interactive, get creative, and don't consider this to be all doom and gloom, because in actual fact, you're possibly going to be safer for everybody. It's going to be easier for other people to access it. You're going to have more efficiency because you can actually record the thing and then possibly either on-sell it or provide it as a bonus to those attendees who were going to be at the event, but then have the opportunity to then watch it as to the heart's content. All right, so that is your events. Now we are up to phase 2 of today's training. What does it look like to pivot not only your events, again, that was heaps of fun, but what does it look like to pivot your consultations online? Now, like I said at the beginning, I've been running telesummits online since 2014. I've also been doing online consultations since then. And the policies and procedures are available from your association, is what I'm going to start with. I'd also like to point out that those policies and procedures are from 2014, 2015, and 2016 of the ones that I found. And that is a long time in technological history. So things are expanding and things aren't taking other things into consideration. So I have a training on acute consultations. I also have a download on acute consultations checklist at tammyguest.com/resources. So if you want to go and Google Tammy Guest and acute consultations, you'll find like everything I've got online around acute consultations. And it plays a role in this online process as well, because not everybody will need all of the details, and especially if you've got ongoing and follow-up clients, then you want to be making sure that you've got all of those boxes ticked. But running something online generally has these top 10 things that you need to look at. And again, you first need to check whether you can legally do this. And to legally do this, you need to check with your association. And the wording from certain associations go with strongly recommend that you do not do an initial consult. Does not strongly recommend initial consults. And then other associations, totally cool with it. So you have to check your association, and you have to check what is going on when it comes to why there is a strong recommendation for not doing an initial consult. Because especially in this next month here in Australia, and possibly in the future, there are ways and means to get information that we get in an online consultation, in a real life consultation through an online means. And if you are collaborating and referring the way that is going to be most beneficial to give duty of care to that client, you're going to be doing the same stuff that you would usually be doing anyway. So collaboration over competition means there is a village of health practitioners that help any particular client, and you just happen to be the online one. That means that that person that you are helping, that client that you're helping, will have a local practitioner, health practitioner, other practitioners for other parts of their systems and their well-being. And when you work in collaboration with them, then everybody's going to get the whole picture, and everybody's going to be working for the benefit of that particular client. So taking all that into consideration, moving online just needs to make sure that you are legally, now recommended versus or not recommended is very different to completely ruling it out and banning it. So recommendation is one thing, making sure that you're covering your duty of care is another, and making sure that your insurance covers it. Now, there are different insurers that are going to cover different things. I know that AJ Gallagher covers consultations online, full stop. So the insurance can look after things, and how you look after the way in which you have best practice in an online consultation and the way that you record the data that you get from that is really important to make sure that you can continue to run online consultations, be it initial or follow-up. So my recommendations around going online. These are a meld of many of the associations, what they currently have, what AHPRA's guide is for the practitioners that are under AHPRA, and just considerations in general. So top 10, are you ready? Number 1, ensure that you have consent, privacy, and confidentiality. Now, consent is the little form that everybody so I'm going to give you what happens offline and how it can happen online. Offline is the little form that you get your clients to fill out or tick the button of when you give them an initial consultation. They're consenting to being part of the entire process of the practitioner and patient relationship. Consent. This doesn't change online magically all of a sudden. You have the ability to pop the signing of the consent form in an online format. Simple Clinic does this really well. You can do this by sending it through Clinico. You can do it by sending it through an email. But the same consent form can be done online. Next, privacy. You need to ensure that you are aware of which third parties are seeing or may have access to the information that's transmitted online. So when it comes to privacy, you have to ensure as soon as you get on the call with your potential client that they're aware that nobody else is in the room, that they're letting you know that nobody else is in the room, that the third party that you are using to consult on, that platform, it has a level of security that meets the Privacy Act, so that their sensitive data will be completely confidential, or that it's out of your control and that they are aware of that by ticking your terms and conditions. So Zoom covers this level of security. Google Hangouts does not. Facebook Messenger does not. Even being on the phone with somebody randomly, not actually seeing, so there's audio and visual, and if you can get audio and visual looked after, then you're actually covering yourself on so many different levels when it comes to consent, privacy, confidentiality, and identity. So making sure that the privacy is in agreement, that you're aware that you guys are both using something that is going to keep the privacy of that particular person and what they're telling you to meet the Privacy Act. Lastly, confidentiality. So again, the same thing that you would say in your in-person consultation, you're going to be saying when somebody hops online with you. What you tell me is completely confidential. You've signed the confidentiality agreement. It's part of what you signed just on your way in. Everything that you say isn't going to be recorded, and anything that you share with me is going straight into your confidential file. So you're making sure that through communication, their consent is looked after, their privacy and the knowledge of their privacy and security is looked after, and their confidentiality levels are looked after. So that's number one. Number two, if for some reason, right at the beginning, you can see, because it has to be audio-visual, my perspective is if you can't see the client, it's just like if you were in person with somebody, except you've got them in front of you. So if you can see something immediately that requires either referral or hospitalization, just like you would offline, you stop it there and then you send them for whatever they need. So you need to make sure that if a physical exam or a referral is required from the beginning, you stop and you send them for that, and then you meet them after those things have occurred. But don't leave this to last. You need to be making sure that at the beginning, the online, virtual, there's other ways of describing it, online, virtual, audiovisual consult, that it's appropriate right at the beginning. So first is the consent, privacy, confidentiality. Second is making sure that it's an appropriate position for you to be in to have this consultation. If not, refer, physical exam, or find your collaborator in that local area that they already have a connection with. That collaborator may be a local general practitioner. It may be another natural health practitioner. It may be another health practitioner of some other allied health variety. But make sure that you are honouring and doing your duty of care for that person by referring them if they need it straight away, and not just continuing on with the conversation when it doesn't need to happen. Number three, confirm identity. Now, it's really, really easy in these situations, and it's one of the reasons why having a phone consultation I don't think is appropriate. I think, my personal opinion is that having an audio-visual makes sure that you are certain that this particular person in front of you is the person that they say they are. So making sure that everything that's filled out on the form, that you are connecting the dots with the person that you have already seen potentially, or you haven't seen, and based on that, what's their date of birth, where do they live, all of the identity stuff that you would usually do when a client comes in and you've already got their initial consult, you're going to confirm that it's the right person. Really, really important and really easy to miss. And it's one of the reasons I do insist on audiovisual. Number 4, this is a difference because there are slight nuances to in-person versus online. In person, you want to be making sure that you're setting the expectations for your care of this particular client. And in person, you're going to be describing, so today we're going to be doing this, and we're going to ask you these questions. They may feel a bit weird or wacky because we talk about poo and you might not be used to talking about poo. I might ask you random things about when you were growing up. And then we're going to do some in-house testing, and I might get you to stand up and down and do some other things. And then I'm going to give you some recommendations, probably teach you a whole bunch of stuff. And at the end, I'll make sure that you know how much things cost, and I'll make sure that I can share with you whatever references and ongoing fact sheets and things that you need. Now, you're going to do that online as well. So in person, online. Same thing, except it includes the bit about what you are doing with an online consultation. So today we're having an online consultation. I'm going to ask you weird and wacky questions. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. But the added thing that you need to add in there is the benefit of us talking is that you're nice and comfortable at home. And it's going to go for about 30 minutes. So you're going to be interrupted. No, you're not going to be interrupted. And if you do get interrupted, just let me know, because then it changes who's in our conversation. And I just need to note that down, because you want to make sure that they've got confidentiality. You also want to make sure that there's no risk involved. You want to make sure that they are aware that you need to see them and hear them. And if they don't hear you, and the interaction or the Wi-Fi connection goes out, that they feel safe and secure in asking you to repeat what you said, and that everything is clear between you. And if it's not clear, you reschedule the appointment to a point where the Wi-Fi works and you can audio-visually connect with one another. You also want to make sure that you've got a contingency plan, which is something like, well, if this doesn't work, we'll reconvene and I'll give you a phone call, and we'll try and set that up for a different time. You also want to make sure that they're aware of the security again, because you're setting up the expectations around not only how the consultation will work, but how the technology work. And it's a really interesting space to be in for particularly different demographics of our potential clients, because it's really going to be difficult for some people who believe that they have an issue around tech. And it's one of the reasons I find Zoom so good, because it's literally just click the next button and then all of a sudden you're there, which is very different to some other telehealth platforms. And lastly, you want to make sure that they're aware of the cost. And again, my opinion, based on both myself and helping hundreds of other mentees in this area, is that the cost should be the same. It's the same information you're giving, it's the same time you're giving, and it's the same expertise that comes with that information and time. And based on that, the cost of that consultation, I believe, should be the same. So you have to make sure that they're aware of that. So setting the expectations at the beginning, hugely important. So that's number 4, setting the expectations. And invite any questions, anything that we need to discuss, so that you feel comfortable, confident, and safe that this is the platform for us to have a conversation today and our consultation today. Number 5, do your consult. Again, it's the same consult that you would be doing in person, but online. So you're still asking them the same questions about their medical history, same questions about their family history, same questions about your what's been happening since their last consultation. You're still asking them the ongoing questions about their current symptomology and their condition. Is it getting worse? Is it getting better? Severity, regularity, frequency, all of the things that you have already been taught in the same way that you would ask them in person, you're asking them online. Again, I highly suggest you go over to the acute consultations one if you aren't au fait with consultations and how, the bare minimum of information that you need in an acute consultation. It's over there in the other training. And then you've got a physical exam. So a physical exam works in a way that you are trying to make sure that you are garnering the same types of information that if they were sitting in front of you, you would garner off them if they were sitting in front of you. And although it is completely true that we cannot do an entire physical exam. There are so many things that you can do. And if you focus on what you can't do, you're going to miss a whole bunch of potential information that you can get off them in that physical exam. So when it comes to running your online consultation and physical exam, I have been in conversation. I'm trying to get you online, and I have a feeling it's not going to work, Katie. I've been on this week with Katie Barron, who is our Let's Get Physical expert, and she has been amazing at sharing her wisdom. I can't get you online, lovely. Sharing her wisdom when it comes to sharing her wisdom when it comes to running an online consultation. And I'm actually going to do a training with her later on all around this. And what she shared with me was all about running the same process that you would usually run with your client that's in front of you, but ensuring that they are being empowered by what you're teaching them as well. So when you're running a physical exam online, some of the biggest things that are really obvious to begin with are nails. Nails. Are scooped? What's happening with them? Can you describe them to me? Do they have flex in them? Do they have ridges? Could you send me a picture of them on your intake form to allow us to have a conversation about that before you come? What's happening with your eyes? Can you see them? Another reason for audio visual. If you were to turn into a mirror right now and pull the bottom of your eye down, what color would you describe it as? Can you do it for me here? Tongue. What can I see in your tongue? Can you stick your tongue out? Are you able to send me a picture before we do our consultation? There's so many things that you're already able to see. You're able to see the way that people are slurring, the way that they are breathing based on their collarbones. You're able to see the way that they move, and possibly even making sure that you are getting their most recent pathology results before you get on the call with them. Obviously, you're going to do that in real life, but it's even more so when you're online because you're trying to empower them. So you're talking about your normal nails, hair, eyes, tongue, all of those details, but then on top of that, you're talking about things like how can you teach somebody to take their own pulse? How can you teach them about it online, and how can you make that empowering for them? Whereas if you were doing it in person, you're not going to teach them anything generally, unless they're a kid, because then you get them really involved. So getting them to find their pulse, making sure that they know where it is, that they can feel it, making sure that you're able to get them to count it out so that you're not missing the fact that it might not be steady. And even to the point where technology is super cool these days, you can actually ensure, like, who else wears a smartwatch? Smartwatches, albeit they aren't the gold standard of getting this information, it's better than no information at all. And my smartwatch takes my pulse rate. It also takes a whole bunch of other really cool information about my health and my well-being. It might have told me about my sleep last night in a way that I couldn't possibly convey to a practitioner if I was just doing it through my own means. And on the possibility on your smart phone is that there are apps right now that you can put your finger on the camera with a certain amount of pressure, and it can take your pulse rate through the camera. It also pops it out in a little graph, so you're able to see it there. It's a free app, Cardio.io, and there's other ones like the Instant Heart Rate app. There's the Smart BP app for anyone who might have a cardiac client who already would be taking their blood pressure at home, and you're able to actually track that. They're just like we would send them food diaries. You can utilize that online as an app as well. But don't forget, there's so many people wandering around with these smartwatches that have these really cool amounts of data around their health and their well-being that they probably haven't either taken any notice of, and you might not usually take notice of, but now you have this opportunity to innovate and take that data and empower somebody with that information. When it comes to those types of situations where you are looking not only at the visual of what's happening, then you're teaching them about these things or these technologies that they have. You're also taking into account that if they already have a preset condition, so if they are already diabetic, or if they've been told that they're pre-diabetic and they've gone and got themselves a glucometer, they can sit there and do it for you, right in front of you. They can take their glucose right in front of you. They can take their blood pressure right in front of you. They can also, the wonderful thing that Katie was talking about today, and what we've talked about in the past, is how cool it is online. If I was to get up and go and get my glucometer and I have a hard time levering myself up, I can then start a conversation about whether or not that person has any issues with their knees, their hips, what's happening with their medications. Are they on statins? Are they levering themselves up for a reason? Going into that deeper type of information is still available online. Now, so be it, you can't see the gate as somebody walks in the room, but if you're getting them to stand up, move their chair out of the way, and measure, for instance, their waist measurement, maybe measure their hip measurement and hip to waist ratio. Maybe you're getting them to show you how far they're able to have a range of movement based on whatever that is actually sore for them and what's happening for them. And then they go to sit down again and they have their hard time sitting down, and then you can talk to them about their hemorrhoids or whatever else is happening. But there are ways and means to garner this information and possibly get more information than you would already be. There is a level of complacency that we have when people walk in the door. And we have this opportunity to be even more specific when we come online, or more attentive when we come online, because we're looking for those nuances that are happening. So there's some really interesting things where you may not have garnered the same information as you do offline as you do online, and vice versa. All right, so BP, pulse rate, using their own equipment. So mums especially will have a thermometer. You can get them to take their temperature. You can even teach them to take their temperature properly, not by sticking it under here, but by sticking it in their sublingual space. Teach them exactly what they're doing, teach them how to do it with their kids. There's an opportunity there that you probably wouldn't have otherwise. Making sure you've got your pathology results, making sure that you're noticing different issues when it comes to holding pain, where they might be holding their bodies, what's happening with their respiratory rate, if they're able to speak to you properly. Different issues when it comes to their emotions, as well as some of their symptomology that's happening. So you can garner information, and I agree, doing a full comprehensive physical examination is the gold standard, and if that is required at that time, make sure that you have collaboration over competition and you're able to refer that client to somebody that they know, like, trust, and that you can create the community and that village feel for that particular person so that they can get the best healthcare possible. So don't underestimate the power that you have to have a physical examination. And particularly with your ongoing clients, and you're thinking, oh, I'll just give them a phone call for a follow-up, have the conversation, see what's happening with them, check in with them about their physical symptoms, and be able to see them and bear witness to what's actually happening, rather than just hearing what's happening third person. The other thing I find, and I really think is quite powerful in running consultations online, is that they are at home or they're at their office. They're at a place that hasn't taken them hours to get to, and they've freaked out about being there, and they don't know how to get the parking, and the parking inspector is going to come, and they've run over time, they've got their kid, they don't know how to get their kid, they don't know how to get out, they've got to get to their next There are so many other elements to getting to you in your clinic that are so underestimated that when you start running consultations online, you're like, this is so good for them. This is so great to be able to talk to you in your space. This is so awesome to be able to make sure that you are at ease and you don't have to run away, and we can have the conversation in a really easeful way. So there's safety, security, efficiency, and effectiveness, especially for the ongoing consultations, follow-up consultations you might be having, that you probably won't get if you're doing it in person, particularly for certain populations, office workers, mums, and people who generally have that background and that introvert kind of demeanor. So really great opportunity to make sure that your consultation, your exam runs, because I really think you can garner so much more information about that. So that's number 5. Number 6 is an explanation. So just the same as you do in your in-person consultations, you're going to explain what's going on for them. Ensure that you are explaining and educating and giving a thorough evidence-based reason for what you believe is going on, and then explain how you are prescribing, then explain your understanding of their pathology results, and explain all of the explanation in there just the same as you usually would. Number 7 is your prescription, your follow-up. So you're making sure that you are prescribing, and while you're there, you are typing out on that person's consult notes, and you are giving them a summary either via email or in the system that you currently use. You are giving them the script and making sure that they understand how they're going to take it and what's going to be required for that. If they have any questions, how to get in contact with you. You're also following up with an email, you're following up with the script, you're making sure that their expectations of timeframes and follow-up is going to be met, as well as how to pay. So these are really short and really clear, so that there isn't any misunderstanding, because they're online. There is a level of relaxed ways of doing this, which is different to, say, for instance, standing at the reception desk and trying to manage what's happening in that space. Number 8 is record. Now, recording is hugely, hugely important. And again, in the same setting up expectations at the beginning, you are recording not only what you would usually record for a client's notes. So you're recording what's going on, what your differential diagnosis was, what made you choose what you were choosing, what you prescribed, but you're also recording how the consultation was actually taken. So how the entirety of this situation occurred, what made you choose the online version for them, what tech details were required, was there clear audio, was there clear visual, was there stop-start, was there any interruption with anybody else in the room, either for you or for them. It's to ensure that you have an appropriateness of your online consultation recorded in the notes sections. So you need to make sure that you have that appropriateness, and any referrals that happened either due to or as a result of what you found out on the online consultation and who that worked. So that is all 8 of the things you need to consider when it comes to best practice in doing your online consultations, your virtual or your audio-visual consultations, depending on which association you are with. Okay, who has questions? And Tanina says, can you record on Zoom, or do you mean in the notes? No, you can't record. Just like if you are in an in-person consultation, you will not record the consultation. It is not advisable to record a consultation. I'm talking about hopping in your notes section or writing down your treatment recommendations or your client notes, and then ensuring that those are confidential and that they're aware that they are confidential as well. that was the question. Hopefully that's given you an answer. The last part of the online consultations bit is it is really an amazing space to be in. It is so incredible, especially for, when I've experienced online consultations with anxiety-driven peeps. They would come in so flustered into their consult with kids hanging everywhere, snot hanging everywhere, couldn't get their car parked, couldn't do the things. And I've also been with high-end A-type executives and real estate agents who just don't have the time, but they can fit in their follow-up session online quite quickly and easily from their computer. And it makes all the difference in the world to be able to still convene with them about their health and their well-being and the status of where they're at and how you can actually be of service to them in a way that is safe and easy and effective, as long as you meet those requirements that I was just talking about. Lastly, there is some tech stuff that might help for online. So logistically, you want to have really good Wi-Fi, obviously. So if you don't have really good Wi-Fi, you want to ensure that your client or your potential client knows about that before you begin. You want to have decent lighting. So you want to remind and with your sending out of your reminder that you are going to have your online consultation and this is the specific way that you log into it. You want to remind them that they either have to make sure that they have some form of, these work amazingly, by the way. Any headphones, particularly Apple headphones, work really, really well. Any audio that you need. So I've got a microphone here. Any visual, so you want to make sure that you're able to see them. And you want to make sure that they've either got a light or they're sitting in front of natural light. So if they can sit in front of a window that has natural light in it, and that they will be uninterrupted for that particular half hour, it's a prior preparation that will help you immensely. And you yourself as the practitioner need similar. So you need to ensure that your audio works, that you have decent lighting, so that you have a know, like, and trust factor, and you're not sitting in front of your laundry, for instance. One of the quickest ways to disappear your backdrop and have your laundry behind you is to actually get a backdrop. These things cost about $30 on Amazon, and you can put a sheet up directly behind you. Or you can use your pull-up banners from the markets that you might have done or the workshops you might have done. You can pop them straight behind you and all of a sudden you look pro and you've got nice light in front of you so that you can actually convey and speak to your client and make sure that they feel like they're in a safe space to share and ensure that they are getting that professional level of help that they would be getting when they saw you in clinic. So hopefully that's helpful. Logistics, yes, smartwatches, audios, mics. If you want to go pro with a microphone, then I highly suggest getting the Blue Yeti. It's got a USB, and a USB is the easiest way to plug into a computer, whereas other microphones are the microphone jack, and they're audio-visual, like hardcore, bit difficult to stick into your computer. So you want to make sure that you've got a decent mic. It's not the be-all and end-all if you don't have a decent microphone. Every up-to-date laptop has enough audio on it that it will be nice and clear. Lastly, mindset. Make sure you come in confident. Make sure you've just got a little list of all the things that you need and you get your checklist and you go through exactly what you need, those top 8 points that I just went through, and you ensure that all of those things are looked after, and then you follow up and you remain in those expectations. Don't knock it until you try it, and we're kind of being forced to try it now, but it is an amazing way to connect with your clients, and they're going to love it as well because they get to just stay at home and connect with you and learn everything that they need to from you. And lastly, if you remain relaxed, they'll remain relaxed. All right, so that's the end of our online consults part. Last bit. Holy dooly, this is an epic masterclass for events, online consultations, and automations. Now, how do you make money if you're sick? How do you make money if you're sick? The vast majority of the answers to that in practitioner world is that I don't. And I want that to change, because the amount of value you have in this brain of yours is exponential. The amount of money that you spent on acquiring the knowledge that you have in your brain around health and well-being is huge, right? I'm $35,000 worth of HECS debt, and then more so. And so there is so much information in there. It's just a way of getting it out to the right people that stops us from doing that. So making sure that you have ways and means to get that information out in an automated fashion, so that you don't have to be there, so that if you do get sick, so that if something does come down with you, your business, or you can't get to your consultations, or even your online consultations, you do have a way to help and be of service through the knowledge that you have. So if you can't be of service through the service of consultations, the knowledge you have is worth its weight in gold. And the way that you can describe that is even better. The way that you describe these health complications for people, the way that you describe how they could help themselves, the way that you describe pathology, the way that you describe fertility, the way that you're passionate about that particular part of the human body, the way that, Moira is passionate about vagina pessaries. Like, that information is going to be of more value out of your head than it is to be in your head. And if it's set up as an automated way for people to get that information, it makes it easily accessible for when you're not even there. I've got a whole training on e-course for prackies, but what I highly suggest is that if you are stuck and you have all this time and you're at home for these next 2 weeks or whatever is going on with the planet at the moment, but if you find you have extra time, it's time to create a webinar. It's time to create a training, and you can actually do it for free. How to do it for free? Get the information out of your head, turn it into a presentation, because many of us are used to using PowerPoint. We're also used to using Word, and it's really easy to create a presentation for free on your computer. You can even use Keynote. It comes with your computer for a lot of us Apple users. So if it's there, create a presentation on the information that's in your head, and then record it on Use Loom. Use Loom I put it up in the hub recently. Use Loom's free. It's amazing. You can do all sorts of cool stuff with it. And you can record and then have it in a library ready for somebody to press pay and give you $5, $10, $30, $100 for a masterclass on whatever you know something about. They're able to pay it even when they're stuck at home doing whatever they want to do, and they're worried about their immunity, they're worried about their fertility, they're worried about their vaginal microbiome. They're worried about their whatever it happens to be, and they're able to find it on your website, pay with a PayPal button or a PayPal link. Super easy, really easy to create. Go YouTube it. You can create one right now. And that automatically takes them to you. Your PowerPoint presentation. And they watch it, and they can comment on it. They can ask you questions about it. And then they can automatically sign up for your online consultation from there and then as well. There are so many ways to automate the knowledge that's in your head and make it available to others. And it creates an opportunity for you to have that available while you're not there. So my invitation, my inspiration for you guys is that please make sure that you have something automated to fall back on if you ever were to get sick, or you can do it while other people are sick. They can access you while you're doing your online consultations, while you're doing something else. So DIY e-course for prackies covers all of that, but if you are going to do it just for free right now, super easy, create a PowerPoint presentation, go and sign up for useloom.com and record your recording and send it out. All right, hopefully this has been beneficial to you or somebody else. If you have any specific questions about this, I'm always open to answering questions, and I will usually do a training on it if there's enough questions based on it, which is one of the reasons that I've done this. This will be turned into a blog that will be available, three blogs that will be available on my website. You can always go to tammyguest.com and the free resources are there. And you can always go to the search bar in tammyguest.com and there's bound to be something that you are interested in there and downloadables that go with it. So if this has been so helpful to you and you know somebody that might also benefit from it, just flick it to them, tag them below, make sure that they have access to it. And if you don't want to miss any of these all go up on my YouTube channel as well. And you can subscribe up there so you don't miss any other trainings that come through. All right, stay safe, people. Think about how you can pivot and get diverse in the way that you practice, in the way that you show up and you share your message, because now more than ever, it's a really important time to continue to share the message of health and well-being for the planet and its people. All right, I'll catch you guys in another training Thursday. Hopefully you all stay safe in the meantime. See ya.